Good morning everyone, welcome back to the channel or welcome to the channel. This is my weekly analysis. I'm just going to jump straight into it. So we're going to start off doing our top-down analysis as I always do. So let's have a look here into the monthly. Overall, right, I'm just going to say the monthly is not providing any clarity at the moment or showing us any direction for certain. Right, of course, as I've been saying for a while now, we have our bullish leg here, right? This is our low, this is our high of our dealing range. Okay, we met resistance at this order block and imbalance, and price has been held here in this range for a very long time, since like July 2025. Okay, so we have a quarterly BPR here, which is what I'm moving now, and you'll see that even more clearly on the quarterly time frame. We'll go up to that in a second, but it is holding the candle bodies of price in this area. So we can see, if you look at the candle bodies between here and here, price has just been condensed between this space on the higher time frames, the monthly, right, and quarterly, etc., for quite some time. So it's been held between them two PDAs and just taking buy side liquidity and sell side liquidity there. So this quarterly BPR and SMT that we have here from these lows are currently preventing a deeper pullback towards a discount. So of course, naturally, we expect when we have our bullish price action here, this bullish dealing range, once price meets resistance, naturally we expect that pullback towards PDAs and possibly even the discount. Right, we have a quarterly fair value gap here, and deeper on the monthly, we have monthly fair value gaps and order blocks here as well. Right, so price hasn't drawn back to those at the moment, because we had SMT here, because DXY did go back into the quarterly fair value gap, and of course we have this quarterly BPR. So let's go up to the quarterly time frame. So there's that fair value gap here. DXY did stab into it, all right, which is where we saw that bullish reaction from as well. But look at these candle bodies here, they're all respecting this quarterly BPR here. Okay, so up close imbalance, down close imbalance creates a BPR, and if you look at this price action, price is going nowhere. Okay, so that's pretty much mostly what I have to say here on the higher time frames. We are day traders, so we don't exactly care for this, right? If this was happening on the daily, we'd be concerned, but it's nice to have clarity as well on the monthly, right? Driving the weekly, driving the daily, so we have that clarity and that high time frame momentum with us. So for now, it's very neutral up here. There's no clear direction from this zone. So let's go down to the weekly and see what that looks like for us. So the weekly has better price action. Right, after we took this high up here, we did create a bearish dealing range, right, which I've been saying for a while in my previous videos. So from this high to this low is our bearish dealing range. Right, we switched once we broke these swing lows here. Now that's when that SMT came into effect. So price did have a bullish reaction, pulled back to this bearish PDA zone here. We had that bearish fair value gap and order block here. We also have inverse fair value gap here as well, but I didn't want to overdo it on the screen. So all I've done is leaving this order block here, which price has respected and closed, rejecting in recent weeks. Okay, we actually closed past this fair value gap here. We had this bullish fair value gap here, price closed beyond it and left behind this bearish fair value gap here, right, which is great for some clarity and some order flow. Right, so we pulled back to that premium, broke down, had a bearish reaction, left behind bearish fair value gap for price to now pull back to and use. So last week we rejected that, closed out with the candle bodies below this imbalance here, and then now into this week my expectation is for price to continue bearish. First target previous weekly low, then we also have our previous monthly low as well just below that. Okay, so if this plays out, I expect price to continue lower and come for these sell side liquidity points. Right, so what have I written here? Weekly dealing range remained bearish. Now its order flow is starting to look bearish too, after it rejected from the premium, which is up here, created this bearish fair value gap, which price is so far rejecting from. So from the weekly, we have reasons and possible order flow to now lean towards bearish week incoming, right, and possibly further bearish price action. Okay, but at least for this next week, we could see price come for these sell side liquidity points. The only question is now, do we need to come up, take previous weekly high, take that buy side liquidity before price then moves to sell side liquidity, taking out these lows, right? Which is very possible, but it doesn't have to, as we know. Okay, so that's the outlook from the weekly. It's leaning more towards the bearish, right, with its price action. So let's go to the daily. Let's see if those two are aligned. Okay, so on the daily, of course, as that weekly broke down and gave that bearish momentum, so did the daily. So we had our daily bearish dealing range, right, from up here, these highs to this low here. Broke below this swing low. However, of course, we did run into this inverse fair value gap that was holding price previously. And we had our order block and imbalance here as well. Right, so high probability order block and imbalance here, which held price and gave us this bullish reaction from. This, of course, at the moment, I would read as just a pullback. You can see it's quite corrective. There's not too much momentum there like we had here. Price has pulled back to a previous inverse fair value gap slash BPR as well, if we go back here. And the main PDA that we had, which was the weekly fair value gap, which is also overlapping with a daily fair value gap as well. So it's taking a buy side liquidity above these highs into that weekly, daily PDA zone here, which is this inverse fair value gap, weekly, daily fair value gap overlapping here. All right, so that's where we created that previous weekly high. So yesterday, price had a bearish reaction from there, naturally, right? So we've reacted from this PDA zone here, and we're setting up with, you could say, more of a bearish daily stage because we had bearish daily momentum yesterday. But like I said on the weekly, do we need to come for buy side liquidity first? So we may not come as high as this previous weekly high, but we could come and take that previous daily high right here before proceeding lower. Of course, we don't have to, but that is a possible scenario, and it would give us a Tuesday high of the week weekly profile. So Tuesday, Wednesday high of the week is the usual sort of weekly profile before price continues in the direction that you expect it to. Right, so overall here on the daily, we're between these two PDA points, right? This is the higher time frame PDA zone we expect price to react bearish from. Yesterday we were bearish, so today are we going to follow that? Do we need to take that buy side liquidity first? So as I've set up here, we need the lower time frame to confirm whether we're going to continue bearish from here, targeting the lows, or if the previous daily high or previous weekly high buy side liquidity is required first. So once the lower time frame confirms that, then previous daily low, previous weekly low, and previous monthly low become our targets for the oncoming days if we get that alignment with the lower time frame to go lower. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Any questions, just let me know. So let's go down to the lower time frame. Let's see what the 4 hour looks like. So here on the 4 hour, so far the current candle is looking good, right? But I said the 4 hour is less clear to me because it has created a bearish dealing range, which would be from, say, this high or even this high to this low, as it attempted to go lower yesterday. However, it closed out respecting this previous bullish fair value gap here, right? So you can see this long wick here, closed body above this candle before going into overnight, evening, and today's price action, where it pulled back to this order block here. So we're between these two PDAs, so I'll need to see the further price action here on the 4 hour to conclude anything. So by further price action, I need a good close on this 4 hour, which would indicate the lower time frames rejecting this area and possibly heading lower, right? So we've rejected this zone here, but if now we start to continue order flow after we rejected this BPR and now we're rejecting another PDA here, that gives me a bit more confidence with the order flow for price to continue lower, coming towards our first target, which will be this previous daily low, right? So we'll need to see further price action. For now, we've got an hour and 41 minutes, but potentially if price action keeps going bearish, we could close out not only rejecting this order block here, it's a high probability order block because it has a fair value gap. So if the candle body gets really low here, we could also close out as a nice high test, rejecting and keeping our candle body within this fair value gap as well. So let's go down to the 1 hour. Let's see how the 1 hour aligns with that. So compared to the 4 hour, the 1 hour is much more aligned for that bearish move aligned with the daily sort of weekly outlook. So you can see the dealing range here is very clear from this high to this low. Price pulled back overnight, but now we are back at a previous 1 hour imbalance. We're within that 4 hour order block as well, right, which is also a 1 hour order block, as you can see. So we've got clear dealing range, some overlapping PDAs here with the 4 hour, and a bit more readable order flow. So I still need some more development here, more price action to be confident when it won't go higher, and for the 4 hour to look good, right, on that candle close. So we still have the previous daily high right above, which is still a risk that price wants to come and take that buy side liquidity before going lower. So we need more than this at the moment. That's a strong 1 hour candle close previously. So we start needing to see some more bearish development and some more price action. But so far the 1 hour is more aligned with the daily stage. We have our bearish dealing ranges. We're back up into a premium here, which is good. So this is that daily candle here. If we continue going bearish and we get more price action, just even down to this Asia range low here, this daily candle, as you can see, the open is around this zone. It would start to flip bearish. So we'd be fully aligned, start having a daily bearish candle being created. The 1 hour would have bearish price action. And if we go back up to the 4 hour, that 4 hour candle would also be respecting this fair value gap, this order block here, right? And we'd have a nice high test, and this would also be flipping towards bearish. So paying attention to those candle formations and how price action is forming, so on the candles above, is quite important as well as a good indicator to where price may be going to. So for today, previous daily low would be the first main target. Depending on what the time and the momentum that's left for the day, possibly you could go for the previous weekly low, but for me it would be the previous daily low. So let's briefly jump down to the M15, see how that looks. So the M15, of course, so far there's nothing, there's no bearish order flow yet today, right? Because it's been bullish in that pullback towards this premium, towards all of these PDAs on the 1 hour and 4 hour. So what we need is for the bearish order flow to kick in first from the M15. If that happens, we're going to see the 4 hour candle close as more bearish, rejecting its order block, rejecting its fair value gap possibly, right? If that starts to happen now. Okay, and if that doesn't happen, it's a good indicator that price is going to continue higher and possibly take out some more buy side liquidity. But if the M15 turns around now, starts creating lower lows, breaking below these lows, this daily candle here starts to look a lot more bearish. The 4 hour and 1 hour starts to look a lot more bearish. And then once we get that order flow on the M15 and it starts kicking in, then we can start looking for trades, right, at these points to start targeting that previous daily low. So just back up to the daily to wrap things up. I hope that was clear. And my bias for today is leaning towards bearish. Of course, we're waiting for that lower time frame order flow though to see if we are or are not going to go any higher, take out buy side liquidity, possibly previous daily high, previous weekly high, before continuing lower, as I expect the price to respect these zones and continue going lower after our reaction yesterday and with the daily and weekly aligning. So any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you.